Alright, ladies and gents, welcome. We're going to talk about Rear Window and how to write an essay. So we're going to start from here. Now I'm going to send you a copy of this PowerPoint so you can go back and have a look. But yeah, okay, so let's go. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to pick a question. Now you have to pick the one that is right for you. Don't pick the easiest question. I think lots of people kind of go in going, oh, I'll pick this one because it's easy. It's easy, I know what it's talking about, it'll be fine. But the easiest question, sometimes you don't have that third paragraph with. You often fall into the trap of writing two pretty good paragraphs, but a pretty kind of stretched third, and that's going to hurt you. The other reason you don't pick the easiest question is oftentimes most people pick it too, and so you're not going to stand out from a crowd by picking the question that everybody else does. You're much better off picking the more complicated question that maybe has a quote in it, or maybe talks particularly about cinematics, something that will put other people off, and that you go, you know what, I've got a lot to say about that question. Not necessarily, like I'm like, oh yeah, 100% yes or 100% no. I'm kind of a bit in both camps. That's actually the best kind of question because you have the most to say about it and you've got complexity, and that is what's going to get you over the line. So pick the question that you have the most to say about, not the one you think is the easiest. The question that I'm going to look at today is the one that I think a lot of people would dodge on an essay, on a SAC, because they feel like it kind of boxes them into a corner, and it certainly does. So the question is, how does sound and camera use contribute to the societal messages of Rear Window? Okay, now let's talk about that question particularly. So the first thing you do when you pick your question is you highlight the key terms. Personally, I like to write the whole question out in my own handwriting because then I can kind of process it. But it's really important that you at least highlight the key terms. Okay, so if you have a look here, I've highlighted a few. I've highlighted the word sound. I've highlighted the word camera use. And then I've highlighted societal messages. Okay, and the other thing that I've kind of fiddled with is the word how. Now, the word how is a word that you should be very excited to see on an essay, because how invites you to talk about text construction and authorial intent. Now, authorial intent is about what the author intended, that the author is doing deliberate things to communicate a message. Okay, that it's not just like Hitchcock tripped over one day and accidentally invented Rear Window, that he actually, everything in the film he did on purpose to kind of, I guess, say to you his message. Okay, and text construction is how he does that. So, he uses actors, he uses cameras, he uses, everything. He uses sound, he uses particular like symbols and motifs, all of those kind of things. That word how is implying authorial intent and text construction. So now we know what words we need to address in our contention, and by highlighting these key terms, it's going to stop us from missing any vital parts in the question when we start working out our answer, okay, which is our next step. So, once we've written it out, we've worked out what our key terms are, we start writing out our contention. Now, it's really important that you write out your contention because, you need to kind of set up in your own mind what you're arguing towards, okay? Write it out as a statement using all of the key words, okay? The reason you want to use all of the key words in your contention statement is so that you know that you're actually addressing all the important things in the question. Then you're not leaving anything out, And if you can't fit one of the keywords into your contention statement, it means that maybe your answer isn't quite right. Maybe you've missed something. So make sure that you can actually use them. So here's my statement that I've decided to use. That I've got: Hitchcock makes clear statements regarding the communist threat looming in America, the disconnectedness of society, and the roles asserted by society towards gender roles. Hitchcock uses cinematic techniques such as sound and camera angles to communicate his views on these issues. Okay, now what is kind of, I guess, interesting there is, so I've got up at the top, that top part is actually all the societal messages stuff. So I've given 3 societal messages. Okay. And then I've said that Hitchcock uses the sound and the camera angles to give me the information about these 3 societal messages. So that gives you a bit of a hint on how I'm going to actually structure this bad boy, which is I'm going to structure this not through sound, like a paragraph on sound and a paragraph on camera angles, but I'm going to structure it through 3 societal messages, 1 societal message per paragraph. Okay? Now the reason I've done that is because a low-end student will address 1 paragraph on sound and 1 on camera angles, and he'll try and cover, or she, my bad, will try and cover as many kind of sound things as they noticed as possible, and they'll write this really big paragraph, and they will refer to that gives societal messages, but they won't actually give any sort of depth to the ideas, the societal message ideas, which actually is the really important bit in that question. It's a bit of a red herring question where it actually wants you to talk about the societal messages, and the sound and camera angles are really just a way, like a vehicle for you to talk about these social messages, okay? So a low-end student will write a paragraph on sound and a paragraph on camera angles, and then probably something like a paragraph that talks about the 2 of them being used in tandem. But that's really not going to give you any depth. So let's move on. So once you've done that, you want to plan your arguments, okay? You've got your contention, you want to plan your arguments. And if you've planned your contention craftily, like I have, you'll notice that planning your arguments is pretty easy because your contention kind of outlined them to begin with. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, basically. So, my 3 paragraphs are going to be: paragraph 1, I'm going to make about social disconnectedness in America. And I'm going to use sound and camera angles to justify that. Okay? So my evidence is going to come from sound and camera angles. Paragraph 2, I'm going to talk about the dangers of the communist threat and the duties of Americans to be aware of suspicious behaviour. And then again, I'm going to use sound and camera angles as my evidence. My 3rd paragraph is going to be about assumptions about women and gender roles. And then again, I'm going to use sound and camera use as justifiers. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Alright, now we move on to introductions. So intros are super easy if you've definitely done your planning right. If you've not done any planning, you will kind of sit there with your intro and go, ooh, what am I going to say now? But if you've done your planning well and you've taken that 5 or 10 minutes to really kind of nut out what you're going to do, you're going to find it pretty much like, a bit like, just slotting the puzzle pieces into the right areas. So, intros. You need 4 things, okay? Just 4, and really, your intro should be 3-ish sentences. It doesn't need to be long. It also does not need to tell me the story. I'm going to write that on the side. No storytelling. Okay? I saw the movie. I've seen it more than you. Don't tell me the story because I already know it. You need to assume that the person reading your essay has seen the film. They know all the characters. They know that Lisa is the girlfriend of Jeff. They know that Jeff is a photographer. They know that, Thorwald is the guy who lives across the road. Blah, 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 blah. They know all of that. What they don't know is the significance of it. They don't know what any of the things, they don't know what the film actually means. That's your job to explain, okay? What the significance of the things in the film are, okay? That's your job. So, you need 4 things, okay? And an easy way to remember those 4 things is TACA. TACA. Title, author, contention, arguments. 3 sentences will do that easily, okay? So, this is my example, and if you're having a look at the screen, you'll notice that I've actually even color-coded it for you. I couldn't have made this easier, okay? Now, mine sounds a little bit fancy, but really it's not doing anything that you couldn't do yourself. So, let's have a look. Alfred Hitchcock's 1954 film, Rear Window, is more than just a crime film. Notice that I've got the author, and I've got the title, and I've also called it a film, okay? Not a movie, because a movie is Dumb and Dumber 2. This is a film, okay? I've also implied something about its genre, that it's a crime film, just because I can. So the next sentence says, it is an exploration of the Western world and its expectations during the 1950s. Okay, so what I've done there is I've introduced the key, I guess, part of my contention, which is societal messages. Okay. Through this examination, Hitchcock criticises the 1950s expectation of the submissive and demure woman, highlights the need for vigilance against the rise of communist activity, and his concern of the increasing disconnect of Americans towards their fellow man. Okay, so there is where I've listed my arguments. Okay? In addition to using the predictable tools of plotline and characters, Hitchcock employs sound and camera use to accentuate his messages. Okay, so there's the other part of the question. So we had a bit of the contention up here, we had a bit down here, okay, and then my arguments were in the middle. Now remember, I'm going to use that sound and camera use to justify my arguments here, okay? Now, one thing I will kind of mention that I guess I'm kind of butting my head up against a lot is that kids are really fixated on at the moment sounding fancy. Don't worry about sounding fancy at this stage. Worry about having fancy ideas. Fancy ideas trump fancy sentences every day of the week, okay? What I would much prefer to read rather than like wordy, like complicated sentences is short, sharp sentences that clearly state really fancy, amazing, complex ideas. Sprinkle very sparingly, like it's truffle, okay? Sprinkle very sparingly fancy vocab. The last thing you want to do is have all your great ideas lost because no one can understand a word you say. Okay? Alright. Let's have a look at the next bit. Teal. Now, I know we've been banging on about teal since you were like, oh, I don't know. Let's go with year 7. I think that's probably an easy, safe bet. You've been hearing about teal since year 7. And if you are not using teal, I mean, for God's sake, what more can we do? Okay? You need to learn how to use teal. Use it properly. Use it every time you write. Okay? every paragraph must use teal. So paragraph 1, 2, and 3 should all use teal. The other thing that you need to be doing by now, because you're in year 12 and you're a big kid, you should be layering your evidence and explanations to give more depth to your essay. That means that instead of writing teal, you're writing teal. Okay. I would say you need at least 2 pieces of evidence per paragraph by now. Okay? And I mean, a good way to do it, not in this essay because obviously this essay asks for particular types of evidence, but if you get another type of question and you're like, oh, it doesn't specifically ask for cinematic techniques, try and make one of your evidences, a cinematic technique per paragraph. That way you know you're going to cover that. And you are expected to use cinematic techniques. On the Year 12 exam, you cannot score above a 5 out of 10 without talking about cinematic techniques if you're writing on something like Rear Window. So you need to get used to using them, okay? The words that are banned from your essay are I, me, my, we, our, and us. Okay? That is to stop you talking in first person. No first person talking. Okay? These are my ideas. If I read that, oh my goodness, I will lose my plot. Okay? The other thing to mention is sentences for essays do not begin with and, but, because, so, with, or. Now, these join sentences together. So, for instance, you might say, I went to the shop and I bought a loaf of bread. Okay? Or, I went to the shop because I needed to buy a loaf of bread. They join 2 sentences together. The I went to the shop, okay, and I bought a loaf of bread. Those are 2 separate sentences, but we join them with a word like and. That's why they're called conjunctions, okay? They don't start formal sentences, and an essay is about as formal as you're going to write. So make sure you're not starting your sentences with them. So, topic sentences. Topic sentences are pretty easy, okay? Particularly if you've planned well. If you haven't planned well, they're tricky. That's why you're a fool if you don't plan, okay? So, a topic sentence needs to talk about, it tells you exactly what you're going to talk about in the paragraph, okay? It's like the introduction to a paragraph. So if you thought about each paragraph as its own little essay, your topic sentence is your intro. You shouldn't have any evidence in there, okay? So no evidence allowed. It should just be one sentence that tells you what is going to be written about in that paragraph. Now, if you're somebody who often slips into evidence, look out for the word when. When you say when, you often slip into evidence because you're like, Lisa is shown as a dominant character when blah, 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 blah. And that's where you get into your evidence. So try and, if you're somebody who does slip into their evidence when you're doing your topic sentences, try avoiding the word when, okay? You should try to tie in some keywords into your topic sentence to show your marker that you are answering the question. Every time you use a keyword, you basically are giving a little wave to the person who's marking your piece, going, hey, look, I'm doing what you want. Hey, I'm doing it. I'm answering the question. Look, I'm doing it. Yay, give me a good mark. Okay, and that's what you want to do. You want to make it really easy for them to go, yes, they've answered the question. They're at least 5 out of 10. Okay, and then they're looking for more rather than kind of going, So they talked about the question in the topics in the intro, but then it kind of faded off. Did they even answer the question? Are they even a 5 out of 10? okay? You don't want them to have that discussion. You want to have them having the discussion where it's like, it's at least a 5. Is it more than that? Okay? Because that gives you a pretty good fighting chance. If they're questioning whether you're even worth a 5, then that's where you get worried. So make sure it's nice and clear by using those keywords. So, you'll notice that I've got my example down there. I know, I'm fabulous. So, this is my topic sentence. The idea that women are to be submissive and fragile creatures is dispelled through sound and camera use in Rear Window. Okay, so there is my societal message. Okay, and there is my sound and camera. Make it a sense? Awesome. So it's a really straightforward sentence. There's nothing super exciting about it. It just tells me exactly what this paragraph is going to be about, which is that Hitchcock uses sound and camera to tell us that women are not submissive and fragile creatures. Okay. Evidence. Here we go. So your evidence can be, the great thing about doing a film text is that your evidence can pretty much be cinematic techniques, which gives you a huge array, things like camera angles, costuming, music, mise-en-scene. You've got loads of choices, right? But then on top of that, you could use things like quotes. You could use things like direct discussion of a scene. You could use, things about the context. There are loads of things that you can use for evidence, okay? In this case, we're kind of backed into a corner with our evidence that it must be either what? Sound and camera stuff. I can only talk about sound and camera stuff because the question said that. So, here's my evidence. Hitchcock uses Lisa as his signature heroine, the blonde bombshell, to highlight that women can be strong and brave as well as beautiful. This is shown particularly in the break-in scene, where Lisa must scale the fire escape and precariously climb through the window in order to retrieve Mrs. Thorwald's wedding ring. The audience watches, like Jeff, through his rear window, far enough away to see the height of the potential fall and the dangerousness of the situation. While this scene is occurring, the diegetic music is playing discordantly, as if all the musicians are playing a different tune, heightening the feelings of confusion and uneasiness in the viewer. Okay, so I've basically set the scene, okay, and I've kind of pulled out both the camera angle stuff that I want and the sound stuff, okay? So the camera angle stuff is this: the audience watches, like Jeff, through the rear window far enough away to see the height of the potential fall and the dangerous of the situation. And then I've got my sound stuff about the diegetic music. Okay, so that's my evidence. Let's move on to my explanation. Okay. So, explanation. Now, explanation is your most important. It is the most important. Okay, well, I have the best handwriting on this, don't I? So messy. Anyway, your explanation is where you explain to me what your evidence proves. Okay, so it's about the significance. Why are you giving me this evidence? What is significant about it? You should also make reference back to your contention by using the keywords. So basically, your contention, your keywords should be used in your topic sentence, your explanations, and your link sentences, as well as your intro and your conclusion. Okay, these are going to be very important words. Anyway, so let's have a look at my explanation. Now, note the length of my explanation. Yeah? It's not like a one-word kind of move-on business. I've really made sure that I make as much use of my evidence as possible, because any monkey can tell me about something that happened in the film. Where your points come from is the explanation, where you actually show me that you understand the significance of the scene that you were talking about. Okay? No explanation, no points. Okay? Detailed explanation that shows me the significance, much point. Okay? So, here's where I explain the evidence that I just gave. This daring feat, meaning the Lisa climbing thing, demonstrates that despite Lisa's fancy costuming, she is more than capable of solving this mystery and completing this dangerous task without the assistance of a man. The wide-angle shot through Jeff's apartment and the jangled, confusion of music invites the viewer to see Lisa's act through his eyes, seeing the risk involved and fearing for her safety. This encourages the audience to not only feel relief that she completes the task relatively unharmed, but also highlights that women are not fragile creatures. They are courageous and heroic. Moreover, Lisa is shown to be completing the task entirely alone in the shot, with Jeff's commentary emphasizing his powerlessness to assist from all the way in his apartment. It is this choice, paired with Jeff's helpless pleas to stop, that emphasize that Lisa is not a submissive, weak woman. She is a woman who is fearless and knows her mind. Okay, so it is detailed. And note that I'm really pulling on the sound stuff. So I've got the Jeff's helpless pleas to stop. I've got the commentary emphasizing powerlessness. That's about sound. And then I've got stuff about the camera angles. Lisa is shown completing the task entirely alone in the shot. And that how the shot makes the audience feel, and the wide angle shot and the confusion of music. I'm really getting in detailed about how camera use and sound use are kind of being used by Hitchcock to show me his societal messages. Now you'll also notice that I had a little phrase there where I've said, "It is this choice." Did you see that? It is this choice. Again, there I'm talking about authorial intent. What the author intends. The author meant this. It's deliberate. Okay? So, and examiners eat that stuff up. They really want to hear that you understand that this is all on purpose. So, let's move to the next bit. Okay, now I'm going into more evidence. Remember I talked about how teal is no longer just teal, it's T-E-E-E-E-E-L. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. Evidence, explanation, evidence, explanation. Okay? Okay, so that's my first lot of evidence. This is my second lot of evidence. Okay? So, this is my second lot of evidence. This is this one. So, Hitchcock also portrays, now notice I use the word also, which creates a nice little bit of flow, okay, from my first piece of evidence to my second piece of evidence. I kind of say, these two are related. I could have used words like moreover, but I used that before, so I don't want to double up. Additionally, that's a nice one. Further, or furthermore. Okay, there are lots of ones like this, but these are really useful words that are really worth getting on your thesaurus and getting a nice little bank that you would really like to use. So, Hitchcock also portrays Stella in a dominant role, predominantly by using camera angles, ooh, there it is, to show that women are not merely creatures, to be pushed around by men. This can be seen when Stella gives Jeff his first massage. The camera is positioned on a low angle, portraying Stella in the dominant position over Jeff, while she vigorously kneads into his back and Jeff is wincing in discomfort. Coupled with this shot, Stella lectures Jeff about why Lisa is the perfect girl for any man with half a brain and can get one eye open. Okay, so I've got a quote there, which I'm really glad about because I was a little bit worried because I didn't have a quote in the last one. So it's nice that I've got a quote now, okay? Because it shows, I can still quote it. Like, yes, I'm good with the cinematics, but I'm also good with the quotes. And we've got camera angle talk, which is awesome. And then I've got, coupled with the shot, I've got the Stella lecture stuff, okay? So that's obviously sound. And I'm going to talk about that sound. Okay, cool. That's my evidence. Let's have a look at how I explain it. Again, look. Oh, it's a nice long explanation. Yay. I'm doing justice. Okay, so this shot encourages the audience to consider Stella as a more powerful character in the scene by emphasizing her physical domination of Jeff. Hitchcock does this, again, I'm talking authorial intent there. I'll just call it AI. Authorial intent stuff. Hitchcock does this to highlight that Stella is the person in the relationship that will be the more dominant personality and refuse to be pushed around by Jeff. Moreover, having the dialogue of her nagging during this dominating shot places more weight on her reprimands to Jeff regarding the state of his love life. This again confirms that Stella refuses to take the more socially acceptable role of the submissive and contradicts the expectation that women must be fragile and delicate. Okay, so here's the stuff about societal messages. Sorry, that was written really badly. My bad. That's supposed to be an E. Blah. Forget it. You know what? I'm just making it worse. And then, obviously, the dialogue of nagging is about sound. And then, the shot stuff. This stuff is about camera angles. Cool. Okay. Final area for paragraphs. Link. Okay, so links are really easy because they're pretty much just your topic sentence reworded. And if you ever got stuck and you were like, oh God, I just have to pump this out, look back to your topic sentence, reword it, stick it at the end, okay? That'll do ya. But if you've got time to think about it, let's talk about it. Your link is a sentence in your paragraph that ties up all the things that you've said during the paragraph and it ties it to your main argument, back to your contention, okay? So, just to repeat, keywords are needed. Every intro, every topic sentence, every explanation, every link, and in the conclusion. And that is in every paragraph. Okay, these words are used a lot because the more you use them, the more you show the examiner, I am answering your question. I am doing what you want. So get off my back, give me a good score. So, here's what I've got for my link. Through the wide and low angle shots, look, appealing to the question, coupled with diegetic sound, Hitchcock subverts the idea that women in the 50s need to be submissive and demure in order to be admirable. There's my societal message stuff. Yay! Okay. Nearly there, guys, I promise. Hold in there. This is what it looks like all together. It looks pretty lengthy, it looks pretty massive, and yet there is only 2 pieces of evidence. I've got lots of people putting in loads of evidence at the moment that they've, for each paragraph they've got like 6 or 7 pieces of evidence, and yet they give very little to no explanation on any of them, and that's not going to score well, okay? It's not a game of who can recite the most they know about Rear Window. That's not the game, okay? The game is who can explain the significance of Rear Window the best, okay? And so less is more on the evidence front, but more is more on the explanation front, okay? And even if you have a look at the colours, my greens are much bigger than my blues, okay? And the reason for that is because my greens, my explanations, are much more important than my blue. Okay? Let's move on. Okay, so now we do those steps for each paragraph. Okay, so that was just one paragraph. Ooh, geez. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, conclusion. Yay. I can't remember why I highlighted this and made it like really like eye-bleedingly bright. But anyway, I guess it doesn't matter. So, you need tacker. Lots of people go, I don't know how to do conclusions. I don't know what to do. Did you write an introduction? Yeah. Well, then you know how to do a conclusion because they're literally the same thing, just reworded. And if you got stuck, again, go back, read your introduction, reword it, and you're done. Okay? So, again, you need tacker. Title, author, contention, arguments. The crime thriller Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock uses cinematography and sound to challenge the gender and social boundaries of 1950s America. So there's my first argument. Moreover, Hitchcock also presents clear comments about the threat that communism poses to the United States and impresses upon the audience of pursuing justice, just like his hero Jeff. Done, dusted, over, move on. Now, proofread. Oh dear Lord. The amount of kids that don't proofread their sacks makes me want to just roll up into a ball and cry. So, how to proofread aloud. Firstly, proofread slowly. I see these people kind of like skimming through their work. No. You're not Hemingway, mate. You need to go back and proofread that thing properly. And proofread it aloud. I'm not saying read it at the top of your lungs in the middle of the sack, but I am saying just sit there and very quietly whisper it to yourself. They won't hear you. People are far too self-absorbed to be worrying about you. So just sit there, quietly read it aloud to yourself at least 3 times. Nobody should finish this sack early. If anybody finishes early and puts their pen down and stops proofreading, I'm going to come over there and make a scene, people. So keep proofreading until I tell you to put your pen down. This should take at least 5 minutes, so make sure you leave time at the end of the sack to proofread, okay? Even if it means that you can't put in that little bit of extra evidence, to proofread it, to make sure that it's perfect, is really important, okay? I cannot stress that enough. If you're somebody who, when they get nervous, kind of turns into a bit of a word diarrhea person, I'm like that too. So what I really recommend is something that I do when I'm writing on the board and I'm trying to like think about behavior management. I'm trying to think about 100 things at once, and mainly I'm thinking about lunch. So this is what I would do. When you're writing, very, very quietly, say the words aloud as you write them. That keeps your hand and your brain in the same space, rather than what usually happens to me is my hand moves much slower than my head, and so if I don't say those words aloud and keep my head there, my head's already 3 paragraphs down thinking about the next thing, or it's thinking about, again, lunch. So saying the words aloud keeps my head in the game, and you might actually find that that actually helps you with your proofing too, because you'll hear when things are too long, too short, doesn't make sense, blurky, whatever. Right, well, it has been an absolute pleasure, ladies and gents. I've really enjoyed hanging out with you and talking and being a bit silly. But it is 10 o'clock at the moment and it's a Sunday night, so I'm probably going to go to bed. It's been a blessing.